Welcome back to The Disconnected. I'm here with Ross Snyder from Saturn's Core Audio and Video again. Ross, I think the last time we did this was just over a year ago. How you been?
I'm good. Ryan, thanks for having me back.
It's been a bit of pretty intense year for Saturn's Core. Have you guys even missed a month in the last year with the release?
We have not missed a month in the last year, no.
Crazy. That's so much. I think last time when we'd done this, you'd only done like 7 titles, I think, 7 or 8. So this is a pretty big time.
Yeah. I think No Resistance was our newest thing at the time, and so we've been just plowing away. So
now that I think about it, I don't think I'd gotten No Resistance in hand yet. We were hyping it up, and I watched that the day I got it in, and that movie is freaking incredible. I still think that's my favorite thing that you've put out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting one. It's one that I've been a fan of for many years, and was super, super excited to finally get it out to the world for everyone to check out, because it's right. So original and so innovative, and it's a real blast.
How's this last year felt compared to that first year? Has it felt like you've continued to have like a groundswell of support from everybody?
Yeah, I mean, each release is its own thing, you know what I mean? When you're dealing with these kind of movies, especially with the way we curate the label, is that, some things that we put out already have that built-in audience there. They're titles that people know and are familiar with, right. Or filmmakers that people have, that have a large fan base in the underground and stuff. And then, part of our thing is just putting out stuff that literally no one has heard of. So those are a challenge to try to get the word out or try to convince people that it's something they should check out. And some of it is like a slow burn. We talk about No Resistance, and that was one that, certainly we talked about on this show, but I think some people were a little leery to check it out. And, it just, I mean, you go on Letterboxd or any of those and it's just like, positive review, right. Review. And so the interest keeps growing, and, the sales of that have like picked up over time. And especially, during the sales and stuff, like it's one that people have in the back of their mind, like this is something I should check out. So, each one is its own thing. And, at the end of the day, I'm putting out movies that I love. That's the most important thing for me,
right.
As opposed to, what's selling, what's not selling. Is just like, this is seeing a new audience and reaching people that have never seen it before, or reaching an audience that would have never previously checked it out. So
exactly,
that's a big part of it.
One of the things I really was eager to ask, because SOV is kind of a genre into itself, obviously. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that they hear SOV and it's an immediate no. They're not even going to go down that highway to even consider it. And to me, that's asinine. That's just completely not something that any of us should be doing to any aspect of film in general. But to do that, that's your own choice, whatever. I'm curious, does it feel like you're garnering new fans of SOV? Do you feel like the circle is getting wider with what's been going on over the last couple of years?
I think so, without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, we talked about it a little bit the last time I was here, but I feel like, when these movies came out, they were reviled by 90% of the world, unless you were specifically seeking out this kind of stuff or just open-minded to the underground scene that was going on at the time. But yeah, I mean, people tended to turn their nose up because it's not a film. And, we're in an age where everything is the majority of things that we consume media-wise are shot on video, whether it be superhero movies or, what you're watching on Netflix or whatever. So I think the stigma has raised a little bit. And, I think that there are definitely people that are checking these out for the first time. And hopefully, with not only what we're doing, but with what a lot of labels are doing, putting out stuff on video, or movies that were shot on video onto Blu-ray, is, I mean, if you love this stuff, it's a great time to be a fan.
Yep.
Because there's a whole number of labels that are putting out the classic stuff and the obscure stuff, and and yeah, I mean, there's no reason to, as I've said many times, it's not for everybody. It's never going to be for everybody, but you can't really judge art by what it costs or the format that it was shot on, or it's like saying I'll only watch movies that are shot on 35 millimeter and not 16 millimeter or whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, but I definitely feel like, I mean, you can tell if you're a collector of physical media that there's been a groundswell of shot on video stuff popping up from all different labels, and it's like I said, it's a great time to be a fan. So,
and this is one of those I keep wanting to say subgenres, but again, shot on video is just a format, not really a subgenre. But it seems like people that gravitate towards SOV, they all kind of tend to be super supportive of each other. And I don't know what it is, but these other labels that are doing it, it does feel like it's just a community. It feels a little more together than some of the other labels. So whether it be Visual Vengeance or VHS Hitfest or you or the stuff that's come out of Culture Shock or TerrorVision, all of it, it just seems like literally tent poles holding each other up and going, yeah, I mean, if you like that, you might like our stuff. If you like our stuff, you'd probably like their stuff. And that, to me, that's super appealing.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely, people from all of those labels that are friends and know one another and whatnot. The majority of them that you mentioned. And it's a super interesting time. And I feel like each of those to some degree kind of has their own identity. At least we try to, within the subgenre of SOV, I'm trying to curate a certain thing, and so there are certain types of shot on video movies that I have purposely shied away from because I have a specific curation in mind. But regardless of that, I mean, there's plenty for everyone to dig because this stuff is it's coming out, hand over fist at this point. So.
In the last year, we've got, obviously, like we just said, a title every single month. We've got stuff like Lost Faith, The Good Book, Guilty Pleasures, Red Cockroaches just released, and then the one that just really excited me is At Dawn They Sleep. Are there any of these that have been like super sleepers, some stuff that people are really not checking out that is kind of surprising to you that you really thought would be a bigger hit over the last year?
I mean, they're all champions to me, but I would say, Lost Faith is one that I just assumed everybody knew about. I just assumed that, it had a DVD release and it certainly made its round over the years, and I just assumed that people that love stuff like Champagne and Bullets and that sort of do-all cinema and that or just lovers of regional things and would gravitate towards it. And I think that part of it is maybe what I learned is that maybe people just want horror from Saturn's core. It seems to be our bread and butter. But I want to do all kinds of stuff. So and we're going to continue to do that from art house type stuff like Red Cockroaches to sci-fi like The Good Book. There may be some comedy coming from Saturn's core, which is something that I've pretty much shied away from and try to kind of shy away from because it rarely hits its mark.
Right.
Shot on video comedies are rarely funny. And so it's a tough genre, but yeah, there's all kinds of stuff out there. I mean, look, we did, On Backwoods Marcy has the next Hooker's Christmas Carol, which is basically like a Christmas comedy. So, I mean, there's all kinds of weird stuff out there. But, yeah, I mean, Lost Faith was our first kind of action martial arts type of thing and stuff. But, yeah, I mean, the horror at the end of the day seems to be our bread and butter. Everybody that loves SOV sort of equates it with horror. But yeah, I mean, we're looking to do all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, I honestly thought that Red Cockroaches was going to be the sleeper, because it's so challenging and it's so art house and it's so different. And I don't know what it was, but it did really, really well. So, that just makes me kind of go, I don't know. I don't know what the people want, but as long as they're, checking out what we do, that's great. So, I'm really happy that lots of people checked out Red Cockroaches. I don't know if it was maybe, I don't know what the other partner labels have on their slates. I have no idea, but it seems like sometimes you hit a month where a bunch of different labels are putting out similar type things. So, I mean, Red Cockroaches happened to come out in the same month as, the Hourglass Sanatorium and all these other sort of surrealist masterpieces. It
was a good month for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just like, I mean, if you're going to buy the Hourglass Sanatorium, then 100% you're going to love Red Cockroaches. So
you're already there. May as well.
Yeah. I think it was just, in some cases, just the luck of the draw. So, I mean, that was great,
The most recent one as of this moment is At Dawn They Sleep, and I got my order really late. It is here. I'm very eager to watch it. I just got it a few days ago. Have not been able to put it in yet. I obviously was sold because I had to buy it immediately when I read that synopsis. But having not seen it yet, can you share like what, in your opinion? Because obviously the copy on the website is going to say one thing, but I love to hear you talk about these because you're so damn passionate. What is At Dawn They Sleep to you?
Well, Brian Paulin is a shot on video filmmaker, who started in the 90s, is still making movies today. And, he tends to be just put it all in there. And At Dawn They Sleep, I think more than any of his other movies, it's always been my favorite of his movies, is sort of just like, it's just got a little bit of everything. So essentially it's a vampire movie, but it also has like John Woo style gunplay. So like they're vampires, but they're shooting guns like in a John Woo movie. Right. And then, it's got miniatures. It's got 6 car wrecks in it. Like they wrecked 6 cars making At Dawn They Sleep. And, the most show stopping is that, Brian is an effects master.
Right.
Practical effects. So, At Dawn They Sleep has full body makeups in it and just shit that you never see on this level of cinema. And it's just a total mashup of all these, 90s tropes kind of thrown into one. And it's like not boring for a second. It's just complete and total insanity. Violence, sex, explosions. It's just, it's a total masterpiece, and it's one I've been wanting to do for a long time. And and working with Brian is great because Brian has fans. You know what I mean? So I mean, his fan base has been waiting for something of his to come onto Blu-ray. So we were so happy to do this and include his earlier film Reap of Evil, which has never been released in any form of physical media, on there as a bonus. So you kind of get this snapshot into like his earliest days of cinema.
Right.
And it's a release that we're super, super happy with. So
I had to pull it up when I was looking at this, and on my Thursday night shows, when I go over all the announcements, one little snippet of the copy really stuck out to me on this. And knowing what Brian has done, obviously the effects were a big deal, but I loved reading body burns, full frontal female nudity, somber autumn vibes. It was just the perfect 3 things back to back. I was like, you know what? This is going to be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Brian always takes moments in his movies to just kind of like film the trees and film the foliage and like some nice rain falling. And there's like an opossum in a tree in At Dawn They Sleep that's kind of hanging out, and he films. And it just, so he always captures those vibes too. So there's like a little bit of art house in there too. And he's just a master. It's a fantastic snapshot from that era.
The big thing though is that was for June. July, let's discuss this, because I have not seen a virtual box set basically from Saturn's core yet, and we are getting our first box set in a sense.
Yeah. Certainly was envisioned as a box set, and is something that I've been wanting to do and working on for a very, very long time. It's called the Tortured Soul Trilogy. And what the Tortured Soul Trilogy is the filmmaker from Minneapolis, Minnesota, named Michael W. Johnson. And he, in the 90s, made a lot of shot-on-video movies, but only 3 of those movies were released nationwide on VHS. Titles like Blood Kiss, Tales from the Cannibal Side, Serial Killer Massacre. But if you were a reader and collector of fanzines back in the 90s, you would see reviews of all these other Michael W. Johnson movies. And probably the one that got the most press was these Tortured Soul movies. There were 3 of them. It was a slasher trilogy that he made. And I've just been after these just to see them for so long, because I was a fan of the ones that came out on VHS back in the day, and that I just had those 3, and I'm like, well, I need all these other Michael W. Johnson movies. So I've been trying to hunt Michael down for many, many years, following leads, trying to find him. And it's just one of those things that one day it just all came together and we were able to connect. And, I said, I need to see these films. And I was basically sent the entire Michael W. Johnson catalog and was able to watch it chronologically. And, my head just exploded. So that was like my obsession for like a year, was just like the Michael W. Johnson films. And we did one on VHS called The Devil's Playground, but that was basically just the appetizer, because when I talked to him about possibly releasing stuff, he said, I want the trilogy to come out, the Tortured Soul Trilogy. And I said, so do I. So So it was envisioned as a box set. It has all 3 movies. Part 1 is from 92. Part 2 is from 94. Part 3 was from 2004. And they are like, in the great Friday the 13th tradition, like each one picks up right where the last one left off. Like there's just straight continuation of the characters. And so we put them all together. Commentary on each movie, featurette for each movie, as much archival stuff as we could find from footage from the premieres, and we got the trailers and all of that good stuff, and then some of Michael's earliest video work, which is a cannibal themed short called Meat's Meat and Man's Gotta Eat. And a zombie short he did called The Smell of Death. And that's all in the set. Everything is in the set. Over 9 hours of content in the set. 28-page booklet. And with, new writing from different film journalists and filmmakers. And then a lot of archival stuff. So we got permission to reprint articles from different zines like Draculina and Dr. Squid, and pretty much anyone that published an article about Michael or the Tortured Soul Trilogy is all covered in the booklet inside. And so yeah, I'm super excited. It's definitely the most labor intensive release that we've ever done, and definitely a huge labor of love. And, these movies have never been seen. So, they were distributed probably regionally through mail order. And at conventions here and there, maybe in the Minneapolis area. But essentially, they've never been released, and so very happy to get them out there. And Michael's work is really, really interesting because he had a tendency to push not only the violence but the sexual content far beyond what just about anyone was doing, especially in '92. I mean, these things, border on XXX rated. I mean, they're just completely out of hand. Probably inspired by Necromantic and the things that were, kind of happening overseas at the time, but totally wild. And I can't wait for people to check it out because it's something I've been dreaming about releasing for many years. So
that's one of the things I was hoping to touch on with this is you spent a year with all of his films. How long ago was that? So I'd love to hear about your journey. Like when you discovered all this to putting this giant box set out, was that a couple years ago? Was that 5 years ago?
I would say it was probably about a year ago, maybe a little more, that I connected with him finally. Nice. I told him I'm a fan of the movies that I've seen, those 3 that were released, but I've read about all these other ones, and so I think I got them, probably maybe around April or so of last year. And just watched everything chronologically while, communicating with him and discussing, what I was seeing. And then, pretty much right off the bat, we put out The Devil's Playground on VHS. And we did that, and we screened it at the Mahoning Drive-In as part of VHS Fest last year. So my goal then was to try to bring Michael out to the fest, but it didn't work out. But, based off the back of that, I just said, what of yours do you, how would you want these movies presented?
Right.
Self? And he basically said, the Tortured Soul trilogy is, my proudest thing. And, I had watched them and really loved what I saw. And we should also mention that these have some known people in them. Tortured Soul 2 has Kyra Shawn from Night of the Living Dead, like the little girl from Night of the Living Dead, who I don't really think has done many other acting gigs. Stephanie Beaton, the 90s Scream Queen, who I'm sure people know from Evil Maker and Eyes of the Werewolf and stuff. She is in the Tortured Soul trilogy. There are some X-rated stars that people may recognize, who went on to fame in the 90s that appear also in the Tortured Soul trilogy. And the other thing that's great about Mike is that Mike stars in all his movies. So Mike is the star of all 3 of the Tortured Soul movies and The Devil's Playground and all the shorts that we have on the disc and everything. So writer, director, actor. His company was called Nightmare Productions, and they did a lot of cool stuff, and we're putting this out there to see what people think. And it was envisioned to me to have each one as its own standalone disc, but we've decided to basically put all the content onto 2 Blu-rays and package it just like one of our regular releases. So it will look just like the regular Saturn's Core releases, but it has 2 Blu-rays inside, over 9 hours of content on those Blu-rays. So, I'm sure people are going to be curious because, again, these have never been seen.
Right.
We can't really post trailers because any trailer that you would upload to YouTube would be taken down within 5 seconds. So it's a little tough to get the word out there. But if you like, subversive slasher, serial killer stuff, tons of gore, and the subversive sexual content pushed to the ultimate maximum of shot on video standards, Michael W. Johnson's films are it. So
Is Michael still doing stuff in the industry? Is he still making films like this?
He is not. He has not. Probably Tortured Soul 3 in 2004 was near the end for him. So he had a filmmaking partner named Kevin Smith, not the Kevin Smith, but a Kevin Smith. And
what a story that would have been, though.
Yeah, and they, grew apart, and things happened, and it's a pretty interesting story, all of which is covered throughout these featurettes that we do. There's one for each movie that sort of chronicles the whole story of them meeting to them breaking apart and moving on to other things and stuff. So he hasn't done anything since the early 2000s, but he is obviously was very involved in the making of the set and putting it together, and recording and filming new interviews. We recorded new commentaries and everything, and he's very happy that these are getting to see the light of day again.
That's good to hear. And just really got to highlight, one of the big things we talked about the last time that we talked is the merit of putting shot on video stuff on Blu-ray, because you can really jam pack those discs. And last year we had a handful of examples, but you have not slowed down on any of these. Like, pretty much every single disc is an overwhelming list of awesomeness if you love this kind of things, because most of them you got bonus full features, you've got audio commentaries everywhere. Some of them the bonus feature has a commentary even. This one, even the short films, like short films is used loosely. The shorter of the two is like 35 minutes long or something, right?
I mean, those two movies that I mentioned were basically they were reviewed in zines and stuff as features. So I thought that Meat's Meat and Man's Gotta Eat was a feature. It has its own trailer and everything. But once I finally saw them, I realized that they're like about 45 minutes, So, it was sort of his early days of, sort of experimenting with stuff and whatnot. So, those are included. But yeah, I mean, two of them together is basically a feature.
Right. I've got a friend that runs a film festival in Seattle, and he just basically like invented a feature where they're calling them a mid-length showcase. So instead of films that are 12 minutes or less, give these ones that are 30 to 45 minutes an actual spot where people can go, oh hey, I can go watch 2 or 3 in the length of a regular feature. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Yeah.
Give some kind of attention to films like that. I mean, this sounds fantastic, and you got it in a regular slip. I imagine the price will probably be slightly higher than the average release.
Yeah, since we had to author and manufacture 2 Blu-rays, it's going to be a slightly higher list price. But again, 3 movies, 9 hours of content.
9 hours.
So over, technically. Hoping that everybody will get their money's worth to check these out. So.
Well, I'll be highlighting it like crazy. And then the other thing, I mean, Saturn's Core is a busy couple months going on. You just mentioned the last VHS Fest. What's going on this year?
So we do this every year. If you're in the Northeast or you're not, and you want to book your flights, we do the Drive-In VHS Fest. We co-host it with Lunch Meat, who does all the amazing VHS releases for VS and all kinds of movies. They do great work. My buddy Josh, and we put together a fest at the Mahoning Drive-In, which is in Lehighton, Pennsylvania. Usually around the 4th of July. This year it's July 7th and 8th, and we do 2 days of VHS era movies screened from VHS onto the big huge outdoor screen. And the best thing about it is, aside from getting to see movies that you would never see at the drive-in, right, is we have a huge, basically, flea market of mostly VHS vendors, tape traders, but there's DVDs, there's Blu-rays, there's posters, it's just an incredible smorgasbord of physical goods that are transpiring until the sun goes down and we can start playing the movies. So It's a Friday and Saturday. Friday is Doom Asylum, Winter Beast, and Killer Nerd. And on Saturday, it's The Brain, At Dawn They Sleep, and Frankenhooker. And Patty Mullen from Frankenhooker and Doom Asylum is our guest of honor. She'll be there both days, signing, doing photo ops. And it's a crazy good time. So, it's worth the travel out. We get people from all over the country to come out, and it's a super good time. Low ticket alert on both nights. Saturday, super low ticket alert. So if you're interested in coming, check out the Mahoning Drive-In and grab your tickets.
I'm super jealous. One of these years, I swear, I have like a list of running events that happen every year that I absolutely have to go to, and this is definitely one of them. And I'm one of those people that love Doom Asylum, even though most people hate it. I would be thrilled to see that at a drive-in.
It was shot a couple towns over from me here.
Nice.
But it's I always tell people, it's especially the filmmakers that come out, that it's a once in a lifetime thing. If you have our Savage Harvest disc, there's a featurette on there where, we screened Savage Harvest and Eric Stanzi came out and we filmed the weekend, and you can kind of get an idea for how incredible it is. And just since you're not coming, just to make everybody else super jealous out there, Saturn's Court is going to be doing this. This is At Dawn They Sleep on VHS. Nice. They're hand signed by Brian Paulin.
Wow.
And these are exclusive to VHS Fest. So come one, come all. At Dawn They Sleep on VHS, exclusive to VHS Fest that weekend. If we have leftovers, we will add them to our store eventually. But last year with Devil's Playground, we had no leftovers really. So,
of course not. I mean, people coming out for something like this, this is the type of thing that they love. So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So that's we're gonna have those, and lots of discs from Saturn's Core, and come say hi. I'll be there.
Funny enough, you lifted that up, and I got to ask, the At Dawn They Sleep art, there's no artist on the Vinegar Syndrome page. Is that newly commissioned art, or was that original from back then?
It is newly commissioned art. The artist is dons himself Eerie Cripps. But I don't think it's too much letting the cat out of the bag. His name is Colin Rogers, a friend of ours. And some people recognized it right away and was like, oh my God, Colin Rogers. And, it was one of those perfect marriages, because anyone that watches Brian Paulin's films, At Dawn They Sleep and the others, knows that Brian is obviously a huge metalhead. His movies are mostly named after metal songs. At Dawn They Sleep is a Slayer song, Reap of Evil, and beyond. His company is called Morbid Vision, and so if you know, you know. And so when we were doing it, I was like, man, we should just have like a kick-ass, like metal-looking black metal cover. And Colin was one of the first things that popped into mind. It just seemed like a perfect marriage for me, and seems like a lot of people agree that was kind of a perfect marriage. So it came out really, really great.
To me, this cover is really aiming for my heart, and probably going to be my pick for one of the finalists for the Shelf Shock Rewind Awards for the best cover for this year. I adore this cover art.
Yeah, I mean, the original VHS is on the reverse side. It's not the most awesome in the world, but it is, it's something that I've been looking at on my shelf for many, many years. So it's become endeared to me. So it's on there if you want to flip it over. But we were looking to get something newly commissioned, and it came out amazing. So.
Yeah, it looks incredible. I'm very thrilled with what you guys have been doing, and then to do a box set around the same time, especially of the fest. I mean, that's a lot of ambition in one summer, and it seems like you're not slowing down at all. If you can say, can we plan on a release every month for the rest of the year still?
Yeah.
Nice.
We got plenty more coming. And you know, again, it's all stuff that you know, some that, you know, we've been working on for a long time, and you know, but at the end of the day, all just, you know, movies that I dig, that I have a passion for,
Right.
and so yeah, plenty more coming.
Saturn's Core is one of those labels. Like, obviously, a lot of labels have themes, but Saturn's Core has one of those feelings that you can tell this is a curation from a person. That it's not going to be a single genre. It's not going to necessarily be the same exact style of film, but it's somebody. And if you align with Ross's taste, like, this is perfect every single month. And the diversity of some of these films, it's always great to see, because if somebody's buying just because they like shot on video, you're going to get a wide range of stuff, and it's just nice to see all that supported with that type of curation.
Yeah, thank you. You know, my partner William Hellfire has, we don't want to leave him out either. He certainly you know, has a say in what we're doing too, and but yeah, and you know, the other thing about us is that we have not done a release yet that the filmmaker wasn't involved in.
Right.
So these people that are working with us, the films that we're doing, you know, I mean, we did one recently in New York City where we had an event and we just brought all the filmmakers. They're all, you know, a lot of them are our friends and stuff. And so, you know, we're working directly with the filmmakers on these, and they're all director approved. And, you know, a lot of that has to do with the content that's on it. You know, if a Saturn's Core release comes out that has less content, it's usually because that's how the director wanted it. You know, it's like, I want you know, to focus on these extras. So, right. But yeah, if they leave it up to me, I'm going to load it with as much nonsense as humanly possible. But yeah, so, you know, we like to say that they're, you know, director approved. So far, everything we've done has been a collaboration with the filmmaker.
Well, and that's overall, that is a big deal. I know a lot of people will probably hear that and just go, yeah, I mean, that makes sense because they made it. But a lot of people really look back on some of these, even like highly regarded films, with shame. They just look back on that area of their life and they're like, I don't mind. You can put it out, but I just don't care. And I'm always just happy to see that you can get these people behind them and just truly give it respect. Well,
we're also lucky that we're working in an era, you know, right, primarily the 90s, bleeding slowly into the early 2000s, where these guys are around, you know what I mean? So, and they're at a point where they're nostalgic to revisit their work. You know, if we were putting out Czech movies from the 60s, then, you know,
be a little different.
The filmmakers may be gone or whatever the case may be. So you got to approach it in a different way. But for us, we're just lucky that we're, you know, kind of orbiting this world where, you know, the filmmakers are around. And yeah, I mean, some of them, when we approach, you know, they take that attitude just, you know, oh, let's leave well enough alone. Nobody wants this. You know, it didn't sell when it was on DVD, or it didn't sell when it was on VHS, or we didn't get paid when it was on VHS. And so it just takes a little convincing that this is a different time and a new audience, and, you know, a chance to get these things out and get them a new life. You know, I mean, I like to think that something like, you know, No Resistance has a new life now. So, you know, that it's been seen by hundreds of more people than have ever experienced it before, which is great. You know, in the case of, you know, Eric Stanzi and Charles Pinion and, you know, Scooter McRae. And I mean, those guys are, you know, people know their work and, you know, they have their fans. I'm sure that it's attracting fans that maybe have never seen their work, which is great. But
right.
So yeah, it's a mixed boat, you know.
Well, speaking of fans, for a lot of people that follow these labels, it seems to help sometimes when somebody that is curating for them can share what they've been into. So, I mean, what about the person behind Saturn's Core? Other than what you're putting out, what have you been into over this last year? Anything exciting or new that you've discovered?
Oh wow! I mean, I watch tons and tons of movies.
Right.
Let's see. I really loved Zero Grad from Def Crocodile.
Yeah.
I had never seen that before, and that's like right up Ross's alley. That's like I love a movie like Oh Lucky Man, where a stranger is sort of navigating a world where anything can happen. I really loved that. I probably give a shout out to Make Flicks. I love everything that Make Flicks does. J.R. Bookwalter.
Playing Killer Nerd at the VHS Fest.
Yeah, I mean, and he's one of my favorite filmmakers and a friend, and I can't say enough good stuff about his work. And if you love shot on video, JR is the man. Ozone is one of the greatest shot on video movies that has ever been made. If you haven't seen it, go buy Ozone immediately. I think Ozone is probably one of the ones that really like exploded my mind in the 90s and made me like really deep dive into this stuff.
Right.
But yeah, his stuff is great. The release they did of Bloodletting, if you haven't seen Bloodletting, is a really, really great release. I love that. The Killer Nerd set, like you said, was great too. Yeah.
They've really done well over the last probably 18 months to 2 years. It's been really nice to see some of the stuff that's gotten releases that you just don't expect to come out of nowhere, and then it sells pretty well. They got something autographed on the back and suddenly they're sold out in like a day. God, they did what is the one they did with the Jacko, that's the one. It went out like literally within an hour the second time that they put up their slipcovers and all that. And I recommended that one to everybody because the commentary for that one is legendary.
Yeah, where the Steve Latshaw like storms out at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a great movie that I love. So yeah, I love what they're doing.
Make Flicks, Def Crocodile, some good recommendations. I'm sure you probably can't say too much. Anything for the rest of the year that you could tease a genre for or something? Anything that you're super excited about?
Well, of course, there's lots of stuff I'm super excited about. But yeah, like I said, there may be something more in the comedic vein coming, which is not something that we've normally done. It's something I've kind of shied away from because, like I said, it's a very weird part of the genre.
Yeah,
because they're usually not funny. So there's some of that. Probably maybe some more documentaries coming at some point. But I can't really say about what or whom. But yeah.
Or even confirm. I love this. Yeah, I've been very excited about a lot of the stuff that you've put out. Most of them seem to get pretty good buzz during my live shows. And to anybody that has just not dove in, I really wish somebody would take just a single chance on some of these. And you can tell usually by the way that people are reacting to the announcements on if it's going to be one that's a little more catered towards everybody. There's a lot that are in the Saturn's core catalog that if you haven't looked at, No Resistance is a really great starting point. I'd say from the last year, you've probably got a couple decent ones. Red Cockroaches, if you are into the more art housey stuff. At Dawn They Sleep, I, again, still have not seen it, but it sounds incredible. What I'd love to hear this. What has people's response to Damn's Elvis been over the last year?
I mean, it seems to be positive. I mean, that is a movie that is just like right up Saturn's core alley. Like that's like us to a T,
Exactly.
And I love that movie, and it's such an original voice, I mean, what's not to like? It's it's rockabilly, it's punk rock, it's horror, it's Getty Chasin, it's Elvis, it's just amazing. So it was I mean, the response was good. That's one that people seem to really dig, or are just very confused by, which is fine. That's a reaction I'll take.
The title alone, I had a couple of people go, wait, what? Hold on, I got to go look into this. And it's one of those, it just oozes the 90s, and a lot of the shot on video stuff obviously is from then, but some of it just doesn't grasp it the way Damn's Elvis does. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's so of its time. I love it.
Yeah, it's funny because that was one that from time to time I would see people post the image of like, but way before we announced it, was like, Saturn's core should do this. And like I knew, I'm like, it's coming, but for the most part, it was like Saturn's core should do this so that I can see it because I can't find it anywhere. I mean, I have a VHS of it, but I don't know how many humans in the world do. It was very hard to come by, and it's certainly John Michael McCarthy's films are a little easier. He only did that one video work and then moved into film and made movies like Teenage Tupelo and Sore Losers. And I mean, his whole catalog is worth checking out. He's a very original voice. But yeah, so that was one that seemed like some people were kind of clamoring for. And so, yeah, it was a home run.
There's many titles that we haven't named tonight. Obviously, it's about half the catalog. Of the ones that we have not named, if anybody's going to jump into Saturn's core for the first time, let's recommend one more title.
Okay, let me look at my shelf.
I was leaning towards Guilty Pleasures. That's a fairly recent one too.
Guilty Pleasures is an interesting one that I think that people that just like regular horror type stuff might dig, because it's one of the few shot on video movies that sort of revels in the Italian giallo world. Yep. It's formatted similar to like Two Evil Eyes. It's like an anthology, but it just has two stories, and it's set in an apartment building, so it's literally two stories. You get the story on the first floor and the story on the second floor. The filmmakers of it, Joe Parda and Joe Zazzo, are like giallo, they're just total experts of the genre. They know the genre inside and out. And you can see it in their movies. And Guilty Pleasures was one that I've always had a love for because it's shot in New York and it has great New York locations and people walking around on the 90s New York streets. Yeah. And a really like amazing performance from Sasha Graham, who, if you like shot on video movies, is like, she's like the Meryl Streep of SOV. Like she's just like, just kills it in every movie that she's in, and was always like amongst my favorite actresses in the SOV world, because she's so like she could have easily like just been in regular movies, but she's just so good in these movies that it's like ridiculous. And in Guilty Pleasures, she's like playing a dual role, and it's just incredible. So it was an opportunity for us to not only put out a cool movie that has, the giallo trappings and tons of gore and sleaze and everything, but, to work with Sasha and get to like interview her for the featurettes and talk about all her movies and stuff. And so, it's a really cool release. And, again, had a DVD release that's probably got out there more than its VHS release, was kind of obscure. But if you like the if you like the giallo boxes that VS has been putting out, or the great films that Severin does on the regular, from the Italian variety, you made Guilty Pleasures. It's certainly something to dip a toe into if you've not done so.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It because the fans of the modern physical media world, it's a fairly mass appeal type of film.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. But particularly if you're a fan of the the Sergio Martino, and, that ilk.
Well, since we went over the whole history last time, I think we've pretty much caught up to where we are right now. Anything else you want to shout out before we call it a night, my friend?
No, I just wanted to give some people the heads up on the Tortured Soul set, to give a little info, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions about it once it hits.
Yeah.
Just tell people about the VHS Fest. If you're coming out, say hello. We'll be set up. Pretty much the only thing we vend at, since we co-host it all year, really. So we'll be there, and shout out to everyone that's been supporting SOV Outsider Art. We appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you. A lot of us that have, I myself, I'd seen a couple years ago, the big ones like Killing Spree, obviously, but the discoveries over the last couple of years have been so much fun. I mean, the themes, the wave films, the random ass, Houston shot on video stuff, that it's such. Again, I think I said it last time we talked, but it's such a unique sort of culture to feel invited into. And because everybody's so supportive, it's just come on in, hang out. We get a little weird, but you'll like it probably.
Yeah. And I mean, we're sort of rattling brains here and there, because we'll do, really interesting, innovative stuff like Red Cockroaches and The Good Book and stuff. And then, hung jury, wave it just melts the brain. And that's always kind of been our aesthetic. I'm not really looking for the middle of the road Smart. SOV. I love Blood Cult as much as the next guy, but it's a pretty, police procedural, vanilla movie at the end of the day. And so I like the really innovative, the really artful, and then the completely mind melting, barely questioning what actually is a movie. So, I know that the wave is not for everybody, but obviously, probably more than anyone in the universe, it's like my flesh and blood. So, I mean, Hung Jury was one that of the wave catalog that I've been dying to do for years. Because as a slasher movie, it's just completely bonkers. So,
Well, continue to melt minds. Congratulations on this last year. I hope that the success is continued and that you don't miss a month for the foreseeable future, because it is nice to see these continue to roll out. And I will continue to support and spread the word as much as I can, my friend.
Well, thank you, Ryan. And we love what you do here on The Disconnected, and we appreciate your support always. Thank you.
Thank you. And everybody knows we'll get you back probably next year sometime.
It would be my pleasure.
Thanks, sir. We'll talk again soon.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Disconnected Podcast. There's one big thing that you could do to help the show, and that is to leave a rating and review on the podcast service of your choice. Thank you.